About a year and a half ago, we were trying to figure out what is our threats. One comment that I had with Kevin a while back was, in his day in the cell house, his biggest threat was marijuana. Well, now we've gone a little bit further. So some of the stuff we were looking at, discussing is planning objectives. How can we set this up? What will it take? What kind of logistics do we need? How can we develop a team? How can we respond to a team? And how can we implement and set up for an in-house response team? So first of all, what are the hazards? Well, I'm sure a lot of you are getting, like we are, unknown hazardous material. The letter right there, all I can tell you is that it smelled like ammonia. That's all we know. We have not received anything back. We have not received anything conclusive. But how many of you have bleach, ammonia, or any of that vinegar in a cell or in your jail the way it is? A friend of mine, okay, he was in the Army. He mixed a couple chemicals together trying to clean a barracks. Well, it happened to be ammonia and bleach. The barracks ended up being condemned for a couple of days. While it aired out, he ended up being in the infirmary at the military installation because of the chloramines that got released by mixing those chemicals together. So it was an accident, but caused a big impact. One of the things we're dealing a lot with is this case spice. A lot of times that we're getting this call of an unknown. I'm thinking more of a case spice issue. Now, some of the issues with the case spice is the formula is so easily changed. Right now, the blister packs and stuff that we can use out there to try to detect, to see if it is a case spice, most of them only have 12, 11 different formulas that they'll hit on. Well, every time they go to make another formula illegal, they change something, it's a different formula, they still try to sell it. There's groups out there that make their own formula, and we've actually found that offenders are calling home asking for that formula to be saturated on paper, and they're mailing it in and they're trying to get high that way. But trying to detect the case spices is actually pretty difficult if it's not one of the 12 or so in the detection system. Example there is 7 was transported after they fell ill at Miami-Dade County. Of those, there was, I believe, 1 offender, 4 officers, 8 officers, a K-9 unit, and so forth. The next one, if you would have told me a couple years ago we'd be dealing with this, I'd say you're crazy. How many remember the zombie drug that was hitting the Indianapolis about a year and a half, 2 years ago, where people are using pesticides and smoking the pesticides with marijuana or something along those lines? Well, we have offenders now specifically having people treat their letters coming into the jail to try to smoke it in jail and get a high that way. Here earlier this year at one of our facilities, we had 2 ladies opening up mail. They were wearing gloves, they were following a protocol. They opened up and they got a whiff of something. Unfortunately, the 2 ladies, one of them had bronchitis and the other one had really bad asthma. Because of that envelope being sealed, opened it up, tripped out a lung situation of both those people. They didn't know what it was. They called, requested our hazmat team respond, or tech response team. And by the time we got there, we found out that the 2 ladies in question were feeling better and were transported by a state vehicle to the hospital for treatment. It's like, okay, that's dealt with. Now we will deal with this. Well, here's the other part of that question. Once we were wrapping up trying to figure out what this situation was, all of a sudden we get a call from the local hospital. The hospital said, what was that chemical? It's like, we don't know. We haven't been able to get a laboratory. It's going to take a while on that. And they said, well, we've got part of the hospital isolated because of unknown hazardous material made it to our situation. And I'm like, excuse me? We tried to explain to them, okay, we're talking about a piece of paper smaller than this that had something treated on it, stuck in an envelope. The person opened it up, got a whiff of something, was wearing gloves, put it down, took the gloves off, washed their hands, and left the building. It's like they are not contaminated. They got a whiff of something that caused out a lung situation. Well, they said, well, we've already contacted the State Department of Health. That was fun. They said we could not release from lockdown until we know definitively what that chemical was. And I'm like, that's going to be hard. So I had a nice little conversation with them. I said, be advised, and I was being very, very, very optimistic, that probably an 85% chance we'll never know what that chemical is. So I got a hold of DHS. They have 3 hazmat specialists. One, Stan Capiblanco. I probably slaughtered his name. Sorry, Stan, if you're watching this later. Larry Hamby and Kevin, my brain just went blank, and a guy on the southeast of the state. What? Whitey? Thank you. They are very, very good to have and have contact with. So I got a hold of Stan. He came up. We set up a full test area. We have probably in that photo right there $300,000 worth of testing equipment that we're sitting there trying to figure it out. And finally, we did a Hail Mary shot. Come to find out, the chemical that was treated to that letter was Raid bed bug spray. And they are actually requesting it specifically when they call home to their spouses or girlfriend or whatever, saying that we want the lavender bed bug spray because they say it gives them the best high or something. I don't understand that, but that's what they're doing. Other things we're doing, we got the synthetic drugs, we got the opioids, we got the fentanyl, carfentanil. As Kevin mentioned, we had about roughly 29 people exposed to a heroin-laced fentanyl in Ross Correctional Facility in Ohio. And you can see a couple other news articles there. 1 dead from a fentanyl inside another jail, and 6 people taken to a hospital for another jail. So they're getting it in. We know they are. The picture on the left was taken from a letter, legal mail, that was going to an offender about 3 weeks ago. In that letter is just over 4 grams of fentanyl. What they did was they had a cover page, the same as the under one, cut it down, glued it down, and made a little pocket on the letter face. The officers found that, was wearing gloves, and we interdicted that from getting into the facilities. Now, for those of you who don't deal with this stuff that often, how deadly is this stuff? Well, first of all, fentanyl is about 2 milligrams, can be a fatal dose. When you get to carfentanil, 0.02 milligrams can be a fatal dose. Now we're talking about pure chemical. Now a lot of times we're not dealing with pure chemical when it's coming into our facilities. So that is good. However, because of that, it's adding more difficulty. A lot of this testing devices, you have a Raman technology and all these other technologies that we can try to use to detect to see if there's fentanyl in a package. Some of this technology, we can actually shoot it through a clear bag. If the fentanyl or carfentanil is cut below a 10% strength, then it normally will not detect it. It'll detect the binding agent, the cutting agent in it. So stuff to be aware of. Just last week, one of our facilities was shook down, and we found in one place about 28 grams of fentanyl. So they're getting it. It's getting in there. And that's one of the reasons why our technical response team was developed for our facilities to be able to respond to it. Now here's another one that scares me to death. If you just saw that, what would you suspect it'd be? Probably marijuana. Well, guess what? It's carfentanil, which is 10 times stronger than fentanyl. It's specifically described or set up to make it look like marijuana, so hopefully they wouldn't deal with it and it would go on in their ways. Now, when we first started looking at this hazard after a situation occurred in northern Indiana, there was a lot of bad information. There was, I don't remember what it was, an attorney general or someone over in Ohio, forget who it was rushing because it seems like, where do the big drugs come out first? Ohio and California. They're rushing to get information out to the responders. During that initial rush, they're saying, if you're dealing with fentanyl, you must be in a level A suit. And for those of you not dealing with hazmat, that's an SCBA inside a suit, completely sealed suit. That is wrong. But that was some of the information that was coming out immediately that was bad information that we were having to weed through. So, one question we get often, can fentanyl be absorbed through the skin? Yes. But when's the last time you saw a pharmacist wearing a full suit or anything besides just gloves counting out pills? Straight fentanyl, as it normally would come, is absorbed through the skin. However, I can coat your entire body with regular fentanyl, leave it on you for 2 hours, as long as it didn't have an open cut, didn't get in your eyes, didn't get in your mouth, didn't get in your sinuses. You're going to get a good buzz off it, but it's not going to be a lethal dose. However, there's some stuff you can do to change that. We have the patches, the fentanyl patches. Those are designed to go through the skin. One thing that some of our hazmat people, technicians back when we were having the anthrax scare, was the first thing that we always did when we thought it was anthrax. Bleach it. They killed it. The problem is, you bleach fentanyl, it's going to become 7 times faster absorbed through your skin. So we need to know what we're going up against. The other thing is hand sanitizers. Because the alcohol in there can exceed or speed up the absorption through your skin if you're using a hand sanitizer. So one thing we tell all our officers is, if you're doing a shakedown, doing a property, you got gloves, if you think you got a powder on you, soap and water. Get it off. One place that we did in areas where there's not many people around, if we're got something on, baby wipes. Take a baby wipe, reverse roll, just make sure it doesn't have any alcohol or perfume in it. So the ones that are normally set up for sensitive skin, you can use those to try to clean off stuff off your skin. But then go find a sink, soap, water, get it off you. So a couple things to be aware of. Now recently, Hazmat Nation, as Kevin says, we patrol the area and try to figure out some stuff going on. DHS Pentagon is considering classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. Honestly, I hope that would be the case. We right now, for those who don't know it, where's it coming from? China, most of it. However, if we crack down on that delivery system from China for the fentanyl and stuff, we're going to have meth lab making this stuff now. There's already at least 25 recipes out on the internet where people can start making this on their own. So it's not going away. My biggest fear, and the biggest fear of several people on our team that Kevin's mentioned earlier, is that it be used as a disruptor. Here's a situation that just occurred just about a month ago. Powdery substance found inside an envelope that was sent to a parole board. We've actually seen a couple of those things. So after September 11th, we had several situations where people were sending a white powdery substance in the mail, scaring people thinking it was anthrax. Now, I'm saying it's a matter of time before we start seeing this happening where people are starting to think it's fentanyl. Now, detection of it, as I said, some of this detection equipment is pretty costly. Getting down to lower doses to be able to detect, especially if it's been cut to street use, is a little more difficult. We are looking at, hopefully, in the next couple of months, getting what's called an MX908. It's a high-pressure mass spectrometry test system that actually detects down to single percentile, including residue dust on the table, to where we can detect. And an average test takes about $3 to run a test. Problem is, the equipment's $65 grand. We are looking at trying to obtain that. There's some grants that are out for it, and we got one out now, and hopefully we'll be able to get that in about October, November timeframe. Next thing you need to be looking at, if you're going to be trying to respond to this, where are you going to get your responders? What kind of manpower? The equipment? What kind of skills do you already have inside your organization? That's one of the things we're looking at. The 3 people in the back of the room were 3 of the 4 first responders we set up as a stopgap measure till we got some more people trained. All of them had experience before we set up the team that made it easier for us to get our team up and running. So, what considerations do you need to be aware of? Manpower. Most of you are dealing with jails and stuff. You're probably not going to be able to get one shift to be able to do their own thing, so you're going to have people coming together. The way we looked at it, we have people throughout the state. Later this year, we're going to have 2 more training sessions, and we're going to up our numbers from 19, and I'm going to try to get 35 to 40 people on our response team throughout the state. So when we get a call that at Wabash Valley or Miami, the people closest would be responding, and we would be responding with the trailer that's on display out there in the parking lot. What kind of response times? What can the facilities be doing in the meantime? We've told our facilities, first of all, get people out, get them decon, clean them, wash them, and then secure the area, shut down the HVAC system. So if you're looking at building a new facility, do you have controls to be able to easily shut down, or are you going to have to call a maintenance guy in at night or train a officer at night to go in and shut down the HVAC system so it doesn't get pulled through other areas of your facility? So just some things to think about. As Kevin would say, that setting one of these teams up, I would not call it a cheap endeavor. We probably have just sitting in that trailer out there in the parking lot $100,000 worth of stuff. One of the things that we have, after doing research, we purchased a decon solution that will kill anthrax. It'll kill botulism. It'll kill several viruses. It'll kill VX and all this other stuff, as well as fentanyl and carfentanil. Yeah, it's $500 a gallon. That $500 a gallon, good news is it's got a 10-year shelf life, and it has no storage requirements for temperature, so it's able to be stored in the trailer. We have 3 gallons available sitting on that trailer when we roll out. We also have a little smaller containers for smaller spills. And the next thing we're getting on this new fiscal cycle will be an electrostatic sprayer, which is similar to a powder coating operation, how it can evenly coat it, so I can make that $500 a gallon go further, being able to coat more areas and ensure we got even coverage to be able to neutralize this. Because we're looking at, you saw the penny. Was that much powder on that penny? So it's easier if we know it's going to be a fentanyl or a carfentanil product to spray this, coat everything, kill it, and then we're going to clean up the residue off of that after we know we got it down. So cost is it. Next is skills. Where can we get our manpower? Thankfully, we had people that are already in the military, already dealt with hazmat teams. Chief Betcher used to be a hazmat technician on Vincennes. Our McLaren back there, he also used to be a 40-hour HAZWOPER person when they were dealing with stuff when he was on the Sheriff's Department a while back. I won't say a long time ago. What level responders do you need? What I've done for our response team, we are all 40-hour HAZWOPER and also OSHA 24-hour hazmat technicians. Now, a lot of our guys are also on the fire department, so they're already hazmat awareness and operations, and we will probably be getting several of our guys hazmat technicians through the fire service just to be able to handle bigger stuff. The other thing to deal with, which seems to be a lot of agencies are dealing with this, they're putting out policies trying to attract more people, facial hair. Guess what? If you're going to be setting up trying to respond, facial hair is something that's going to be an issue. Under the OSHA regulations, 29 CFR 1910-134, we can't have anything that falls in the sealing surface of the face mask. So people have to be shaved. And then this is not one of those, what people have done in the past. We've trained them, we got the equipment, we're good. No, this is something that you have to continue to train on. For us right now, we're doing 8 hours of continuing training per quarter. Soon that's going to be coming up to hopefully 2 sessions per quarter once we get some more things set up and more manpower on our teams. Since the team has been put together for us, we have had 9 responses that we've gone in and mitigated and cleaned up. Now, other thing that I wanted to mention is how can we try to mitigate some of these hazards? We talked about mailrooms. One thing that we did, and we're still in the process of expanding this, is we went out and purchased updraft HEPA filtration hoods. And I've got my email at the back of this. If you want information on that, I can send it to you. But the HEPA filtration hoods, it's not a vacuum. It's just enough to keep any dust or anything coming into the operator's breathing zone, so they can sit there with gloves on, open up underneath the hood. If there's a dust there, they set it down, they take the gloves off, look at their hands, go wash their hands, and call somebody. But it contains it to that area. Things you need to be looking at. discussing your threats with your local agencies, your EMS, your fire, your hospitals, and that type of stuff. Like I said, the one situation we had not too long ago where 2 people went to the hospital, I'm sitting there, it's an inhalation, they weren't exposed by skin, there's no contamination on them, not a big deal. Well, the hospital didn't understand that. So having that discussion ahead of time makes life a little bit easier. Having the fire department know where to come, know what kind of capabilities they have, what they can do. One of the generic response criteria we put, if somebody comes and finds a hazardous material, unknown substance, isolate the affected area. We had one in a cell house, close the cell. If people or offender have any chemical on them, have them remove any contaminated clothes, wash it off, again, using soap or water, or if we know the chemical, based upon the safety data sheets. If possible, shut down the HVAC system. So, in one of our situations, they put a piece of paper with some tape. They were able to slap it just inside the door on the air return in the room to isolate that room until we were able to get there. And they did that while they're getting everybody secured. If it is a liquid, you've got drains and stuff, try to keep it out of the drains if it's all possible. So here's just some of the pictures of the different trainings that we have done. Again, we are evolving. This is a new team that we've set up to respond to Indiana Department of Corrections. Our goal is we're looking at trying to mitigate our losses, and we're expanding as we're going. Any questions, or did I completely knock everybody to sleep on this? Scared? Yeah, I apologize, but seriously, this is 20 years ago. What was the threat? Marijuana. Now what are we dealing with? We're dealing with something in very small doses can kill us. Training your officers to wear the gloves. Training your officers if they're doing a shakedown, not throwing everything up, shaking the sheets out and all that stuff. Trying to be careful so it doesn't become airborne if they come across something. You find something taped up, don't try to rip it open. We have mail rooms and stuff where if they don't have our hoods yet, we've recommended goggles and a desk-style mask to where we're protecting them until they are able to get that equipment. Those hoods run about $3,000. And again, it's got a laboratory-grade HEPA filtration system on it, and you just have to calibrate it periodically. And then when you can't reach calibration, you change out the filters on it. But that's just trying to prevent it from getting into the breathing zone of our workers. We actually have a 2-foot bottle on our trailer. It's in the wood boxes in the very back. So if we respond to one of our facilities and we have mail that we want to look at, we have 2 options. We can either do it in a full-face air purifying respirator and a suit, or we come over and put in that hood and I wear gloves and we go through it one by one and try to see if there's any threat. We've been practicing trying to figure out early detection capabilities, and we'll continue doing that. For example, that full chemical setup that you saw with DHS, we're looking at using PID detectors, trying to detect if there's something on there as a screening tool. However, it's probably not going to work for the fentanyl or carfentanil, but for the K-spice, it seems to be giving us an indication. So there's just different things we're trying to do to try to make it easier for us to screen some of this stuff. However, these offenders, as most of you know working in corrections, have 24/7 to think about ways to circumvent what we're doing. And we're working on trying to figure those out and try to mitigate those risks as we go. Any other questions? They said if I went quickly, they weren't going to care. Yes, sir.
Quick question on, like gloves, your experience with fentanyl and carfentanil. I can't think of the name of the brand. There's like a double wall glove. Oh, sorry.
Yes, there's
Is there one you recommend more so than others? Or?
not the only one that I wasn't real thrilled about. There's one out there that the outer is white. What are we looking for? A white powder. So the ones that have a dark color with a lighter color on the inside, great. For our response team, when we go in, we're not wearing those gloves. I actually have them put on 3 layers of gloves, different colors so we can see them if they're torn. But disposable glove, at least about 5 millimeters, or is it millimeters are rated in? Not mil. Anyway, there's a 5 on that. But disposable gloves. The ones that are dual layered, that has a lighter inner color, I do recommend, especially if people are not doing this that often. And it is a very good eye popper, especially for officers. If they're out doing a pat down on someone, it's like, ooh, I've lost the outer protection of this. Again, I prefer the ones, if you're going that route, that have a darker exterior color, because we're looking for what's typically a white-ish powder. And if it's those white gloves and stuff, there's one with a white outside and purple on the inside, I can't see. So that would be about the best I can tell you right there. I've got a sample one in my truck. I can show you the information on it when we have the tent opening. Any other questions? I'll be out there. The members of our team, 3 of our members, will be out there. If you have any questions, we'll be more than willing to answer. We'll show you what our capabilities and what we're doing and how we're trying to fight some of this stuff. There's my email address. If people want to get a hold of me, send questions to me, or you can get my phone number out there underneath the tent. That's fine. Right now is just trying to get the information, getting people to think, looking at what's going on. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope everybody stays safe out there.